Okie doke. Video number 2 of the weekend. I'll try to do another one. I was planning on doing another one later today, but y'all, it is dropping by the minute, and I don't do cold weather. My nose is already turning red. So what we're going to go over briefly today, and if I were you, just because of the way the weather is, I would probably wait until Tuesday or Wednesday before I started doing this, so you're not freezing to death today or tomorrow. But it's just weeding. It's that time of year where you need to probably spruce up your mulch or your pine straw, or if you use leaf mulch, which can be good and bad depending on how healthy your leaves are. But anyway, I can put that in the comments. So I want to show you where I've kind of started on a portion of one of my hodgepodge beds in the back, way behind the nursery. And it never had weed cloth put down because I am a landscaper and I like to do things backwards, I guess, just like any other trade does. Mechanics' cars never work. Landscapers' yards usually have weeds like crazy. So here is the area that I've started on. I tried to make a definitive line of where I stopped, and I'm going to show you basically what it looked like, the tools that I use, how easy it is if you have these tools. And if you can't find these tools, if you'll let me know, I'll try to order some so that you can, buy them from the office. But here is a brief view of what I've done. Kind of hard to tell because it did have a layer of mulch in it originally, and it's got leaves, obviously. So I've kind of just scratched through with these tools that I'm talking about. That's not dead. Y'all heard me talk about it last year. This is actually my fire chief that I love. I'm sure I'll cover that later on in several days. But here is where my bed meets my weedy non-grass grass. So once I get my weed cloth in there and my pine straw, which is usually what I use just because it doesn't float off like mulch does, you'll be able to see a bed separation. And that is not a weed. That's actually where I'd cut back a balloon flower. And the only reason I'm not removing the leaves right now, I normally would in the base of hydrangeas, because hydrangeas, as y'all know, are terrible to get that thing called Cercospora leaf spot. And you don't want to leave all your infected leaves around the base of it necessarily. If I saw any that were really infected, I'd probably take them away. But we are going to have 20-degree weather tonight and tomorrow. So I'm just going to leave them there until I can put my mulch down. So anyway, I've done this portion of the bed. You can see where I've stopped, basically. Oh my goodness. So yeah, the bed was like this. Y'all don't judge. I like weeding, I really do, if you have the right tools. But at the same time, I'd kind of been busy or been procrastinating. I'm notorious for doing that. So what I'm going to do is turn you around. To make this video too terribly long, I always say that, and it always ends up being like 5 or so minutes. Let's turn my little followy thing on. The tools that I like to use for my weeding, and this is all personal preference, this is called a stirrup hoe, and this is just a garden weeder. So a stirrup hoe basically looks a lot like a hoe. This one's on a handheld stick. They have the longer ones that are like the length of a rake, but it looks like a stirrup. So it has this hole in the middle. So instead of doing the hit pull action that you would do with a regular hoe, it's a lot less strenuous. You hit, pull, and kind of do this weird scratching motion under the ground, half an inch, whatever you can do under the ground. And it breaks up most or cuts off a lot of the roots that are fibrous on these weeds. Keep in mind, a weed is just something that you don't want. If you want a dandelion or if you want wild aster in your garden, it's not a weed, it's a wildflower. If you don't want a daylily in your garden and it's there, it's a weed. So weed is a broad term. Anyway, this is a garden weeder. I mean, ooh, they got real creative with that one, didn't they? So it's got this weird little angle just for the lever action, but it's got a tooth looking thing in there, fork, that you could put it underneath a weed, try to pop it up as much as you can. I'm going to end up going over 5 minutes. I am so sorry, y'all. But what it's for primarily are things that have tap roots like dandelions or bulbs like wild onions that you don't want to break off necessarily because their roots aren't fibrous and it will come back. So you want to hit underneath it, as deep as you can, and then just kind of pop it up, loosen the soil. Third and lastly, as far as tools go, is just a simple old rake. This one's broke off. All my stuff is way used. And once I've gotten all the weeds out of the way, I just kind of scratch over it to make it look nice and smooth. And any weeds that are still laid on top of the soil, I grab. Now, I tend to wear one glove. I hate wearing gloves. But this does help when I pick up the weeds, you know, because I do this also rubbing action. So here we go. Just to give you an idea. This is the really, really bad area. Can y'all see? Or do I need to put it further down like that? All right. So we're going to start with this. This is a wild onion. And like I told you, you just kind of want to push down and try to pop up. You see how it pops the soil up like that? The main goal is to get that bulb. If you don't get that bulb, just like any other bulbaceous plant, it's going to multiply. And then here's your stirrup hoe. You just kind of hit barely, and then you're doing this scratching motion. Really. And then there was another wild onion. I should have done that too. But once you get this scratching motion underway, you could do one or two things. You could turn it over and just kind of move the weeds around so that it shakes a lot of the soil off, and you could just grab them and toss them. Or if you're like me, I like to do it with my glove, and that's why I wear a glove on one hand, is once I get all of these kind of scratched the way I want them popped up, I just go through there and just do this. Just a lot easier. All it does is same principle. Shakes it off, toss it away. But that makes weeding a lot easier, in my opinion. It's not the dreadful pull this one, and you don't necessarily always want to spray any kind of herbicide, especially if you're trying to stay with natural type stuff in your flower beds or anything like that. What I'll probably do after I weed this bed and get it all smoothed over is I'll put down a pre-emergent granular herbicide. Then I'm going to put my weed cloth and straw, but that's a different day. So I just wanted to kind of show you guys something that makes weeding a little easier, not as dreadful. Let me know if I need to get you either one of these tools, and I'll definitely do it. So y'all have a great day.